How do you want me to introduce myself?
I will introduce you.
Okay.
Let's see. Hi everybody and welcome to a new video. I'm here today with my friend Rob.
Hello.
We know each other from acting class and we just spontaneously decided to do this video. Today we will talk about expectations when it comes to dating, and I think it's just going to be interesting to see a man's and a woman's perspective. Obviously this is completely subjective, so you might not have the same opinion as us, and that's completely fine, but I think it's going to be quite interesting.
Yeah, well, I'm curious to see what you have to say as well. So
yeah. Maybe to mention, Rob and I have not discussed what we've written down. We've both written down 5 points. Actually, Rob said he has a bit more than 5.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have no idea, and we will just tell each other what we've written down, and then we'll have a little chat about it. All right, let's do it.
Let's start off. Do you want to start, or should I start?
I'm quite curious about yours, so...
Okay, so we'll start off with me. So, so generally, imagine I've already asked someone out, and so what I would like to do, I usually like to, I might do an activity with them, but tend towards the end of the day, I like to sit down, maybe at a restaurant, maybe at a bar, just to get that kind of one-on-one rub, because when you're doing an activity, it can get a bit distracting. Now, sure, you see the fun side of them, but you kind of want the contact time to actually ask questions about them. Now, when you are at a bar or restaurant, the first thing I always look out for is how, and this isn't actually anything to do with their not direct personality, but how do they actually treat like staff, waiters, waitresses? And it's important because, how they treat other people, like if they perceive them to be lower status, or how they treat people who provide them a service is kind of, I think, is an indication of how they might treat you if things aren't always rosy. So say for example, you find out that the person you're dating is very rude to staff. I in my experience, and maybe it's a general indication of when things aren't going well between the two of you, that's just how that person is going to treat you as well. So if they're rude, they're going to be rude to you when they don't feel they need to impress you. Yeah.
Have you finished your sentence? Yeah? No, I just want to see if I can jump in and say something.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Okay, it's so interesting that you're saying that, because I thought that you would say something completely, maybe not completely different, but something a bit more gender related. It's just interesting because it's something that I actually look out for as well. However, I have not thought of it the way you just described it, the way you said maybe this is how they will treat you when they don't feel great, but it's certainly possible, I assume.
Well, what do you think it's an indicator of then?
For me, it's just not a very good sign if I go to a restaurant with a guy and they are not very nice to the waitress. That means, first of all, they see people in categories like, oh, this is just a waitress, I don't have to be nice to her. Like that they're not the kindest person is what it's telling me. Yeah. And just it's not a very great characteristic trait in my eyes. But actually, I think that you have a good point. It might also be how they might treat you at some point.
Well, I think just to build on that, it doesn't really have to do with staff, but if you can, maybe you can just try and slip one in. But see how they treat people who make mistakes, because if they if they become like the butt of a joke, which is occasionally is fine, like sometimes it's warranted, like, you know, I don't know, in the case of waiting staff, if they spill water or whatever, it's probably, you know, it's okay just to have a little giggle. But if it really becomes like there's, you know, see something in their eye that's a bit anger or a bit of confrontational, it doesn't really need to be because it's such a superficial thing, then I think, oh, that's a bit of a red flag for me.
I guess it could also be an indicator of how they deal with a situation that is not comforting, how easily they get angered or frustrated. That's actually a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because it's kind of a form of emotional control, but also
Yes,
just
it is.
Yeah, and also again, it's just kind of just general like social manners that you don't really need to get. People make mistakes all the time, and if they're not forgiving in any kind of respect, then again, I would kind of warning bells go off a little bit.
Yeah, I think this is a really, really great point. But let's jump on to the next.
Yep. After you.
So I'm quite curious what you're going to say about this one. This is actually gender related. So my first point is I don't really have too many dating rules because, I mean, if you don't know, I wrote a book. It's called Love Life Simplified, and the subtitle is... Oh my gosh, I don't know my own subtitle.
Wait, actually, do you have a copy of your book? You could just put it in front of the camera.
I don't have a copy here. So it's called... Oh my gosh, what is it? Wait.
You should. Yeah. Was it your editor that gave you the subtitle, or did you come up with it yourself?
No, I invented it, but I just forgot what it was. I'm going to totally edit this out.
She better not, because this is hilarious. Can't believe you don't know your own subtitle.
There we are. Okay, so okay.
Previously searched.
Oh my god, I'm getting so red. Okay. So the subtitle of my book is Free Yourself from Rules and Find Out What Works for You. So I don't believe in having a massive amount of rules, but I think it's good to have certain things in mind. And I mean, with our experience we learn, and yeah. So anyway, so one of my rules, one of the few, is that if on the first date the guy doesn't pay, then I'm not seeing him again.
Oh, yes. Okay. I have an opinion. I never pay on the first date.
You don't?
No.
Why?
Because the first date,
so this would already be over if we went on a date.
No,
okay.
No, absolutely not. I think...
okay, can I just explain why?
Oh no, absolutely, yeah, go for it.
And then please tell me why you don't pay. Okay, so when I go on a first date, I would rarely ever go to a restaurant. I usually go to like a coffee place or like have a drink, so the guy wouldn't have like a massive bill to pay. But for me, it's just a form of showing the first investment that the guy, how do you say, make?
Yeah, makes. Yeah.
Makes, and I guess maybe also because once I went on a first date with somebody and the guy didn't pay, and I just said to myself, "Oh, it's okay. Don't take this too seriously." But then it didn't end well, so I guess I just feel like maybe this is a bad example.
So it's a little mix of principle and personal experience,
yes.
Which is okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I just before you say anything, so my principle is not that the guy has to pay every time or like all the time, but he just has to pay on the first date, and. Yeah, because I just don't think it's a good sign if he doesn't. So now, please explain why you don't do it.
So I don't do it on the first date because you don't know if like you said, like dating is a kind of investing. Like you're investing in a social possibly romantic interaction. Now you know nothing or barely anything about this person when you first meet them or when you go on your first date. So. You know, you're not just investing your time, and your time is valuable anyway, but you're investing can be a significant amount of resources into that first day, which may end up being nothing. Now, I can't remember the exact figure on this, but I remember reading somewhere that like single guys spend like, is it like up to 25% of their annual income on dates? I just think that's crazy because you're just kind of like. It's like throwing a seed everywhere and hoping that you might catch a pigeon. It's
But I want to know something else. would you make a difference between a date from a dating website where you actually never met the person, or maybe somebody you've hung out with, and over time you feel you like this person, and then you ask them out on a date? Because it's different, I think.
Yeah, so I would make a distinction. If I know the person beforehand, if they say like, if they're a friend, or let's just say they're an acquaintance, like a friend of a friend who I know, I've met before, that's slightly different, because I should already know something about them before, which to me should be an indication of whether or not I would like to hang out with them or like to date them in the long term. So I wouldn't ask a friend out or a friend of a friend out if I didn't like them beforehand. This is just me talking about dating complete strangers. So if you are, say, using a dating app and you meet them for the first time, and I don't really think that online interactions can be that reliable. I kind of do personal interactions. So after that, no, those kind of dates I wouldn't pay first time. I would split it, even if I paid, if I had more. If, say, for example, I bought more food or more drinks.
I feel like we can make 10 more videos.
Yeah.
I want to ask you lots of questions about this, but this would not be about this video, so I have to ask you later. Let's carry on with the next one on your list.
Right, so this is kind of, again, in terms of dating expectations, but for me, I was kind of like, I try not to go into have too many expectations about that person. So what I do is I'm constantly I'm kind of scanning that person, because I assume they're doing the same with me. I'm scanning that person for kind of behaviours like the one I mentioned before, that I find a bit odd. And so one I have written down is, now this is obviously, I have an odd relationship with in terms of social media, not how engaged they are, but how obsessive they are about it. Like, and it's particularly about their kind of social appearance. Like, do they care more about their physical appearance online than they do, for example, about when I ask them questions about developing their character? So if they're more, for example, I do yoga on rocks at sunset for a good picture, versus have they actually thought about what values they hold in life, which some people don't think is a first date kind of question, but I do think it is. Then those are the kind of things. So it's their kind of online presence versus their real person. How different are they? Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. I thought, I don't know, when you started and you were talking about social media, I thought you were about to say, I noticed whether they check their phone during the date or something. Oh no, that too. Yeah, okay. That's all kind of part of it. Yeah, okay. Like, the thing is though, like, there are going to be, when you date in the first few dates, there are going to be silences sometimes. Like, yes, I think that's fine. It's also, again, on that, how comfortable are they with silence? Like, it's fine to normally check your messages if you've got any, but if you then say, oh, I've only got one message, or reply to it, oh, well, let me just take Instagram, let me take Facebook, whilst I'm actually trying to ask you questions or trying to get eye contact, then that's the thing, and that's kind of linked, I think. It is, but I guess people have different opinions on this. Some people think it's rude, others think it's not rude. I think it's rude just because you're meeting up to get to know this person, so you should spend the time to actually get to know this person. You have plenty of time during the day to check your phone, and statistics say, like, we all check our phone way too often anyway. So when I go on a date, or when I meet a friend, or just when I spend quality time with somebody, I just put my phone in my bag on silent, or if I'm expecting an important call, I don't put it on silent, but I try not to be on my phone, because I am with that person. And you can't really form a true connection if you're scattering about, you know? Yeah, I agree. Yeah. No, just keeping your phone on silent, or even just turning it off. Like, you can live without your phone for a couple of hours. It's like, it's not a problem. Like, if you are gonna treat this date seriously, just spend as much time on them. That's actually a good point. I think you are treating this date more seriously if you don't continuously go. And that goes for the same for the person that you are dating. If they are on their phone, then they're not treating this date seriously, so they don't really care too much about you during the date. So
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. What's my next point? Oh, okay. I'm quite curious what you think. So this is just about a first date. This is not generally a no-go. But I think that on a first date, I do not want to be asked about previous relationships.
Okay. Okay, go for it.
Because I think this is in my opinion, the first date is just to get a feel for the person, to get to know the person somewhat. But if we start digging in the past, you know, wherever we start off, one topic we start off, very often we talk a long time about this one topic. So if we start off in previous relationships, then maybe a person feels compelled to tell a whole story, and then suddenly this whole evening is just about this past relationship and is not at all about this possible new relationship. And that's why I think it's not good for a first date. So sorry, what did you want to add?
No, so so there are certain things I want to know. So one thing I want to know is, when was the last time they were in a relationship? So I don't need to know the person's name. I don't need to know too much information. Just generally, just a general timeline.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to know that, and I'd be happy to share the same information. On what you said, I wouldn't really delve too much into. I wouldn't ask questions about that last relationship. I might, depending on how open I feel that they are, you might ask very quickly, why did it end? I'm not really, and I'll say, you don't need to go into detail, just out of curiosity. How they then open up or don't open up, I think can say a lot. So if they do talk about previous relationships, and so take that, say for example, you're dating someone and their last relationship ended abruptly or badly or whatever, how they then talk about that,
yes,
it can, I think, throw up a lot of indicators.
Yes,
so
for sure.
Yeah, what kind of things do you look out for that?
There was something I wanted to add. Oh, I just wanted to add that I don't think I always ask this, but I think it's actually a good question to ask, when did your last relationship end? Because actually, even before you meet them, because if they say 2 weeks ago or 1 month ago, for me, then the next question is, well, are you actually over this? Because I don't want to go on a date with somebody who's not over somebody else. So that's why this is a good question to ask. And very, very often people do go on dating sites who are not over their ex, or they actually precisely go on there to just distract themselves from their inner pain. And so that's why I think it's a good question. And about why they broke up. Yeah, I mean, if somebody then starts talking really badly about their ex, that can be not the best sign either. But I mean, but that's why I think it's actually not the best thing to talk about that in too much detail, because I don't know that much about our last relationship. Sorry, what did you want to add? No,
I was just gonna, so you would ask that question even before you met up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I might not want to meet them if they've just broken up.
That's true. I think, yeah, I mean, so what is an appropriate space of time? Yeah.
I would say starting 2 months. That's already not much. I mean, I would prefer if they said 6 months or 1 year.
Yeah.
But it depends. I mean, how they react to the question, are you over them? Because, I mean, some people are actually, when I think back to my first relationship, when my boyfriend and me broke up, it was actually completely over, because it already started to be over as we were together. Maybe this is too much information, but but it depends. I mean, sometimes if something ends really abrupt, and you need to take time to yourself to get over it, or have you maybe drifted apart in the relationship? Because there are, sorry for the lighting, I'm very sorry, but ding ding. But there are are relationships where you drift apart, you start to live different lives, and at the end of the day, when you break up, there's nothing left. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it's that sort of thing. So you really need to know what the circumstances is to get a picture of whether they might be over it or not.
I think just on top of that, I'd quite like to know how long that relationship was. So if the relationship was quite a long one, I think a long one is really 2 years plus.
Yeah.
I think, because I generally, just as a rule of thumb, 2 years is kind of when you start making decisions, more serious decisions about where's this going, or kind of more firmer commitments.
Actually,
just as a rule of thumb, at
very
least in my
good
head.
point. Yeah, actually, that's a very good point.
And then I was always taught, it takes half the time that you were with someone to get over the breakup. Now, I don't know how true that is. I do think that I definitely think that 1 month is probably not enough time.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 months.
Well,
I'd say 2 to 3 months
was.
is probably a good enough break. Especially if they're shorter term relationships.
Yes,
Yeah.
if it was a shorter relationship. Let's carry on. I can just see we're already at 21 minutes, so
We've got so much to talk about.
But is it my turn or your turn?
I don't remember.
I think it's my turn.
I think it's your turn.
Anyway. Oh, yeah. So this was also, I think, pretty much everything I wrote down is for the first date. But I guess this one can be for any date, actually. To make the person feel relaxed and not feel like they're on a job interview. Because sometimes, I think it's nice to come to a date not completely unprepared, but also not with a massive list of questions. Because if I feel like I'm on a job interview, I don't think you can make a really true connection and feel relaxed with each other if you make the other person feel this way.
Yeah, I agree. I don't go with a list of questions. I've got a list of questions that I brought to myself today. But, no, in general, in my head, I'm just kind of just kind of like I said at the beginning of the video, just general behaviours I look out for. Otherwise, it's just more like, do I get along with this person? Do we have anything in common? Do we, have anything in common in terms of like activities, or what values do we? I will talk. Depending on how receptive that person is, I might talk about what kind of values they have, if they've thought about them, because that's I do see as a values system as the basis of a good basis for a long-term relationship. Because if you disagree fundamentally about really important issues, it's just like beyond.
This lighting is just crazy. I'm completely dark.
I know.
I'm so sorry. Okay,
that's fine.
Let's carry on.
One thing is you got to look for physical attraction.
Okay.
You got to. I thought about putting this as my first point, but I think, but no, I've left it as at the end. A good one.
This is not the last, though, is it? You have one more, no?
Let's see. Well, no, because in terms of relationships, we kind of covered that as yours.
Okay.
Yeah. So physical attraction. You've got to be physically attracted to them. You just got to be. Now, it's not the only thing you need to be concerned about, obviously. But if it's not going any, if it's not getting you going.
Yeah, but can I ask you? Do you see that immediately? So after the first date, you can.
Well, the thing is, though, it's you can check out the person before you meet them, can't you?
Yeah, you see a picture if it's online dating, but
Oh yeah, if they don't look like their pictures.
No, but would you say that you saw somebody in the picture? They do look like the picture, but slightly different, and you are not attracted to them?
No, I think if they think it's not. There's no kind of for me. There's no kind of red line in terms of they've got to be a certain level of attraction, both in pictures and in real life. It's more kind of general attraction. Do I are there physical qualities generally attractive? Because everyone that is subjective, and it will change over time. Sometimes you.
But yeah. But I do agree with you, because I once dated a guy and I thought that over time I would find him more attractive. Maybe this sounds strange, but you know, it can happen because just because you see somebody one day and you're not immediately attractive, you could be attracted to them later on. But sometimes it doesn't happen, and if it doesn't happen, then that there is actually quite a big part missing. So
yeah, and just also, like, I don't know if this is true for girls, but for guys, girls can be very misleading.
In what way?
In the sense that they can fake attraction. I think that they can pretend.
What do you mean, that they are attracted to you, or what? Do you mean?
In the sense that you can think that they're attracted to you, and actually they're not. And I think.
Yeah, but I think guys can do the same.
Okay, I'd like to know. So the kind of things.
But how do you mean? Like, but why would a girl do that? Or how do they make you feel like they are attracted to you?
Maybe it's to get them to pay for the first date.
Come on! But you think so?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely think so.
Interesting.
Okay.
Well,
so
I think it's my turn.
Yeah.
I have 2 more points. So this is actually so funny. Kind of relates to what you just said. Funny enough, even though we didn't talk this through. I wrote, being dressed nicely helps.
It does, and that's definitely true. I think.
I just want to give an example. I don't want to make this into something superficial, because dating and then relationships, love, that's not something superficial, but what first meets the eye, it's just what you first see, that first impression. And you don't have to, in my opinion, you don't have to dress up crazy, but maybe show that you did make a little bit of an effort and not come in really like your worst type of clothes. I mean, I just think it just shows the effort you put into the date. And for example, once I met a guy and he was dressed really, really nicely when he asked me out on a date. And then when we actually went on that date, he was dressed poorly. And I was thinking to myself, what? So yeah, I mean, I think you just have to think about how you come across.
No, I agree. You should always dress to impress on your first date. Not just the first date, the first couple of dates. Well, and then you can start toning it down because you're more comfortable with each other. Because you also don't want to carry that first good impression out for the rest of your life. You know, because that's a high standard. The whole point of these first few dates is you're setting a high bar. I think it's hard to maintain that, and then you want to see them in different lights. So you don't want to carry this kind of picture perfect person in your mind throughout the rest of your dating period. So
I agree, but at the same time, I would like to add that I think as you continue dating, you should every now and then still make that effort to not get into that rut where you don't appreciate the other person, you don't get dressed up for them at all. I think there has to be a good balance if you want to create something that lasts.
Yeah. No, okay. I agree, definitely. Right, let's just see. I think actually we covered most of my things. One thing. In terms of dating, if you know the person's friends or know of them, do you like them? Do you like the other person? Like, again, if they're complete strangers, this is not going to apply to you. But I generally think that you are the company that you keep. Yeah. If they have a number of friends that you really cannot stand, and you know why you can't stand them. Maybe they're very catty. Maybe they're just very rude people, or the easy examples like that. And then they say, and then on the date, they basically give you an impression that they're complete opposites to them. Then you've got to ask yourself, well, if you are the complete opposite to your friends, why are you friends with them? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, or as I was saying, if they, are they nothing like their friends? So if they're nothing like their friends, why are they friends with their friends? Friends that you don't like. Or if they are like their friends, why why are they putting up a face, a mask?
Yeah. What you said in the beginning, you might have heard this phrase, you are the average of the five people that you spend the most time with.
You are the average?
Yeah.
Average of the... Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think actually friends would be such a good indicator. However, in my experience, it's kind of rare to meet somebody's friends unless you are already at a different stage, you know? Or, I mean, it's nice if you get to know somebody in a group of friends and then you can get to know them without any pressure.
Yeah.
I think it's a really great indicator. I just think that is one of the struggles with online dating, that this person presents themselves to you the way they want to present themselves, and you just have to use your own common sense to find out who they really are, because you usually don't get to meet the friends for a while. So I think, it's a great indicator, but sometimes you don't have that option. Oh yeah, so this one, I'm also curious what you think. I think I can speak for quite a few girls, but probably not every girl, but I don't like it when a guy is very pushy on the first date, and I don't think a kiss needs to happen on the first date. I think it depends. It could potentially if those people feel the same way and if the tension is created and you can just feel. But I think most of the time the first date should just be a time to hang out and see if you want to go on a second date. I think a kiss on the first date is kind of like jumping at it very quickly.
Most of my first dates have ended with a kiss.
Okay.
I get so not all of them, and I think you can kind of gauge in her general mannerisms, and same for guys, like the general mannerisms of like kind of whether or not they want to kiss or not. I think, to be honest, I always find it obvious. Like for the dates that I haven't, ended with a kiss, is because I knew they just weren't. It just wasn't going to work out. And
really?
Yeah.
So interesting. For me, it's the opposite.
Oh. Go on. No, go on.
No, I mean, if I go out with somebody and I really like them, and I can feel a vibe, but there's no kiss at the end, then I'm looking more forward to the second date and when are we gonna kiss each other, and but if a guy just immediately kisses me, I just feel like it's too soon. And interestingly enough, obviously, like I said before, I cannot speak for all girls, but quite a few of my friends have told me exactly the same. They said they feel that it's nice if there isn't a kiss, if you just have the chance to get to know each other before before the kiss.
Well, I'm not talking about tongues. I'm just talking about a quick peck on the lips. Because for me,
now you're talking yourself out.
No. I'm just because I think it confirms physical attraction, and then you can leave it. I think you can just leave it like that for the next couple of dates. Like I think I don't know if for guys who are taking dates seriously and not guys who are just looking for a hookup.
Yes.
Confirming that physical attraction is important, but and once you confirm it, they're going to feel more comfortable in the sense that some maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but they'll probably then just take the next couple of dates more calmly. They're not going to rush into more kind of intimate contact. But again, I think.
Well, very, very interesting, I must say. Was there one more point, or were we finished?
No, I think we kind of covered everything on my list.
Lovely. I think this was actually even more interesting than I expected.
Well, okay.
No, really. And so thank you for watching.
Thank you.
If you are very interested in this topic, please check out my book. I will link it down below. And
what's the subtitle?
Well, you can read it down there. And I will see you in my next video. Bye! Bye!